Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at gcnlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
What a day we had yesterday. Jeez, we're going to tell you about it. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked. Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. We're delighted you're with us in class today. We broadcast 2 hours from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. If you'd like to call us and be on the air with Doc Ram, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. If you'd like to listen to USA Prepares 24/7 on the listen line, 605-477-3249. 605-477-3249. Kyle's engineering the broadcast in Minnesota at GCN. I'm Vincent Finelli. Doc Ram's with us. Welcome, Doc Ram.
Good morning, Vincent. I know. It's always fun to wake up with you.
Well, I got to tell you, Rick, I had the most interesting experience yesterday. I'd like to share this with you. I decided, for some probably misguided reason, that I would run again for the position of director of the local electric cooperative. I'm running for the board of directors. So all I need is some signatures from the membership, So I figured, a lot of people know me in the area, and it's not going to be too hard to get these signatures. So I dropped my mom off at the senior center, and that's where the seniors all get together and they play bingo and they have lunch, and they do this once a week, and it's really good for the seniors because they get a chance to see each other and catch up on whatever they got to catch up on. So I was there, and I brought with me my petition, and it says petition candidate for the board of directors, Vincent Finelli, my post office box, Grove Spring, and it says here printed name, signature, address, and comment. That's all it says. Okay, that's all it's asking for is printed name, the signature, the address, and if you want to put a comment there. And I only need 15 signatures, 15 bona fide signatures. So I mentioned that I was doing this, and I got a couple signatures, and I went to this guy who is a Republican. He's a dyed-in-the-wool Republican, and I was a committee person, and my wife was a committee person for the Republican crime syndicate. And so I asked him, and he said, no. I've seen him at many of the meetings, and he and his wife were instrumental in getting our sales tax to be increased because they wanted to have an E911 service. We already had E911 service, but they wanted to have it in our county. They wanted to have somebody in our county sitting at a phone. So because we were paying for another county to do this for us, and they wanted these people, these Republicans, these two that I'm talking about, husband and wife team, they wanted to have it located in our county, our taxes went up, sales tax. So, I hold them personally responsible for increasing the sales tax that everybody has to pay. But, not everybody knows that these two people were instrumental in doing this. These are the same two people that thwarted all of my efforts.
Payback.
All of my efforts. Yeah. They thwarted all of my efforts to become self-reliant at the county level. I wanted to build a business. I don't know. Maybe I'm a threat. Maybe I have a foreign accent. Maybe it's because I'm from Virginia, not from here.
There is a point there. I remember the look on my father's face when he realized he was no longer a Republican.
Well, it's hard to be a Republican. It's hard to be a Democrat. It's hard to be associated with any of these.
Republican, and then something happened, and he no longer was a Republican. And I remember the look that he had with that realization. It so shocked him.
Yeah. Remember when they called
no
Republicans...
Longer, it's, the Democrats and the Republicans are wings on the same bird. And people don't get that.
And they used to
don't have a choice anymore.
They used to be two different birds. They used to call Republicans hawks.
They're no longer different.
Yeah, they used to be called hawks. The Republicans were hawks, and the Democrats were called doves. It's like the Democrats were for peace, and the Republicans were for war.
Well,
right? And that's what it was all about.
And elephants, I don't know, man. I'm going to say something here. I posted a recent interview that Ron Paul just did with Snowden. Wait till you see what comes out of that one. Now, I'm here to tell you that this is no longer America as I know it. And what's happening on a moment-to-moment basis with you're trying to go out and get signatures. Why? Agendas? Oh, yeah, there are agendas, yes. There have always been agendas. This is different.
Well, let me tell you something.
I are personally enjoying personal attacks on us from all directions now.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And let's share some.
Who's doing that? Who exactly? Can you name a name or even an alphabet structure that you can say they're doing it? And Utah, and that massive computer that they have in Utah now, they're building a larger one here in the state of Oregon. Why?
They don't want to be left out. They don't want to fall behind Utah.
It's not like that. It's about profiling to take control of everyone's thoughts. They know now, using super computers or what we call algorithms, that what you're going to do before you do. Literally. And that's why Google is using it for advertising. Look, here's a new kind of dress. We know you like this because you just recently bought da-da-da. They are tracking on every single level. And at some point, algorithms are allowing them now to predict what kind of food you're going to buy this week at Safeway because you're low on milk and this is how fast you drink it. Now, with that kind of level of insight information on a stack of qubits that are going into universes that we can't even fathom, what's happening now is it's outrageous. They are being allowed in Israel to arrest Palestinians for future crimes. That happened last week. I mentioned it. Nobody believed it. It happened. And today, they're trying to discredit the alternative news people. Now, I don't care much personally for Alex Jones. I have personal reasons why I don't care for this man. However, his interview with NBC and the way it came out in various leaked formats is an indication of what is about to happen to everyone like you or me. And what they're trying to do with Judy Wood, I watched how that all played with health news or natural news going up against there's a alien something or other. I have it on my internet. Posted a solid argument against Judy Wood and her so-called energy beam weapon. And in fact, it was fairly straightforward and, made Judy Wood look kind of silly. Well, that's okay, except that Judy Wood isn't a physicist. I am. And I know how 9/11 happened. Do you think anyone has posted that article I wrote on a tactical nuke that now exists? The building that burned in London, I did a post on that and the comparison between that building, which was approximately the same size as the one, Building 7. And they fell differently because they were demolished differently. And that article said there's no way steel will melt. They found melted steel. And the thing that was so curious about Building 7 was that when you have a 617-foot steel beam that falls to the ground, there's seismograph that will say, the boom, shock. nothing happened. There was no shock wave because the beam didn't fall to the ground. It vaporized. Now, this article has made Judy Wood look silly because she's quoting John Hutchinson and the so-called Hutchinson effect, which is not an energy beam weapon. Now, misdirection of information on a scientific level, and the general populace doesn't really know the difference. I do. And I can tell you that there's nothing on Earth that will dissolve steel except a plasma. I challenge anybody in the community to take me on that one. Anyone. And I'm pissed off that this whole thing is about discrediting people, trying to give reasonable questioning arguments on what really happened as plausible deniability. I guess you have to go to commercial now, probably.
Pretty soon, Rick. I've called Judy Wood over the last couple of months. I can't get her on the phone. Judy Wood, Dr. Judy Wood, was an instructor at a university, and she got removed from her position, and she's been on the air with us at least 11 times, 1 hour each, going through her book about the World Trade Center buildings and the evidence of energy-directed weapons. And she said, she's not going to say what happened. She's going to say, just look at the evidence. Just look at what happened. Look at the pictures. People standing in the windows of the building, taking their clothes off. No one that I know of who's been in a fire takes his or her clothes off to get cooler in a fire. Nobody does that. You put more layers on to insulate you from the fire. But people were taking their clothes off, and they were being propelled out the windows. People were being propelled. Yeah, and that's what she talked about. USA Preparedness instructor, Dr. Judy Wood. Absolutely brilliant. I'd love to have her back on the air with us again and again and again, but I can't get her on the phone. Something has happened, and I don't know what. I've invited her to the farm. I've invited her to the expos. Something has happened. If anyone knows what happened to Dr. Judy Wood, can you give us a call? 866-582-9933. So, Rick, my family thinks I've lost my mind because I'd like to pursue the director's position at the local electric cooperative. And so, in my pursuit of getting the signatures required to be on the ballot, if you will, I went to the senior center and I got some signatures, and then I asked this one guy who's a Republican who I've seen at a lot of meetings, and he said no, he's not going to do it because he has a relative who is already on the board. And that's what happens. What happens is there are just a few families who are controlling the destiny of almost everyone. And they are in the big party, whatever that big party is. In our area, it's a Republican crime syndicate. And so he told me he would not support me. And what I don't understand is why he didn't say, nor his wife, neither one of them would support me being on the ballot. Neither one said, I think competition is good. Listen, I'm not going to vote for you, but I'll sign that. No, they wouldn't even do that. So what I'm learning is who our friends are. Actually, not even friends. I'm learning who we can count on, and I'll tell you what, it's a really short list. Let me tell you how this progressed. So I went to the guy next to him, and I said, would you consider signing this petition? The guy said, no, I don't want nothing to do with you. You pulled a gun on my son. Now, this is in front of a whole bunch of senior citizens, okay? And this guy says this. I look at him and I said, absolutely straight-faced, did you see me pull a gun on your son? He said, no. I said, so what makes you say that? He said, my son said so. I said, oh, is he the same guy who hopped the fence, the barbed wire fence around my property? The same guy that had two buddies with him that had, all three of them had shotguns. They discharged 9 times toward my house, killed 3 animals. Is that the guy we're talking about? He said he was on the road. I said he was on my farm, and I did not pull a gun on him. By the way, those guys had 3 shotguns in their hands, loaded. And so he wasn't willing to sign the petition. And so I said, by the way, it's okay. I have a signed confession from him. I have a signed confession from your son. I also have the ammunition that was emptied out of his shotgun, that was still in his shotgun when he had the shotgun in his hand, holding it toward us. Now, here's what I'm talking about, class. So if you're a nice guy and you don't call the sheriff and have these thugs arrested for criminal trespass, if you're nice and you don't do this, what they do is they tell the village that they lie and tell the village that you pulled a gun on them. That's what they do. So welcome to the Ozarks, where rural America. So then I decided that I would go to the local farmers cooperative. I walked in there, and the gal behind the counter, and I waited my turn, and I asked her if she would consider it. She said no. And that's when I lost my temper. And I said, okay. So you want my business? You're willing to take my money? We're all in this together, but you're not interested in having me on the ballot. And she said no. So I left there. I was pretty angry. I was absolutely shocked. Absolutely shocked. This gal behind the counter was miserable to our son, miserable to me, miserable to my wife, all the time. All the time. So I'd had it with her, and it was just the culmination of just being treated and poorly and mistreated. Why do I want to go there? I don't. So I called my neighbor that night, next door neighbor, and I asked him, I said, hey, look, I'm following your lead. Remember when you asked me to support you, you wanted to run for a county office position? You wanted me to support you. Remember that? And I did. Well, would you consider signing an application to get me on the ballot? He goes, wow, Vincent, geez, all of a sudden, you kind of surprised me. Huh. Geez, all of a sudden, I'm not prepared for this. I'll have to think about it. What? Are you kidding? These are people who, you know, if they're in the ditch and they want me to pull them out, I guess I'm going to have to, well, I've been surprised, right? Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us. So, Rick, what I'm describing is a phenomenon I just can't understand. You know, I volunteer to help people in our area. I do it all the time. When they talk about compensation, the answer is absolutely not. We're all in this together. I'm glad to be able to help you. When the road washes out, we'll take our backhoe and we'll take care of the road and at our own expense, our own fuel, our own time, and we'll do these things and without expecting anything. But I got to tell you, I've learned that we're not in this together. We literally are not in this together. If and here's how it goes. One of these neighbors could say to me, "Well, Vinny, who asked you to do it? Who asked you to fix the road?" And I'd have to say, "Nobody." No.
It's
well,
like
then
trying
you did
to
it.
stop and help someone with a heart attack. If you're not a medical doctor, the relatives can sue you.
And it's even worse because they'll say, "Well, nobody asked you to do this. You did it because you wanted to. So what's the problem?" You know, and what you're thinking is maybe it should be everybody should try to help each other, and everybody should try to be fair and honest and above board and contribute to the village. You know, but you can be beaten up for helping because no one asked you to do it. George in New Hampshire, welcome.
Hi, Dr. Rick.
I knew you'd come on. I knew you'd have something to say about all of this.
I know. I just wanted to say one thing, and I'm sure, Vin, you've been describing something that I've noticed in this life, and I'm sure Dr. Rick can subscribe, is that the moment of truth no matter what anybody says, no matter all the highfalutin talk, when the moment of truth comes for them to vote or to give the thumbs up or the thumbs down, no matter what they say, that's the moment where they have to take a stand. And that's how a lot of corrupt and evil men take over, is because the people you thought you were friends, you're better that you found it out now than when you find it out when you're in a foxhole somewhere and you're hunkering down and you think somebody has your back.
You are absolutely so right. And so this morning at breakfast time, I mentioned to our family, I said, I told a story about our neighbor and how he has to think about it. I'm stunned. And I even said to him, you don't have to vote for me. You don't have to do that. And when I was at the Farmers Cooperative last time I ran, a couple of years ago when I ran for the same position, a guy said to me, and I've been seeing this guy for, probably 7 or 8 years, and he's been an employee there a long time. So we talk all the time, okay? I thought we got along. He said to me, well, if I sign this, do I have to vote for you? I said, no, you don't have to vote for me. And I'm thinking, wow. So the people who you think are friendly, people who you think might be on your side, people who you think might understand what's going on, people who you think might have some common sense and want things to be better. It's not like that where I live. Where I live, it's really simple. I know that the guy I'm going to run against is going to get up on stage and he's going to say this, and I'm going to quote it. I'm from here. I was born right up there right up there. I'm from here. I'm going to work hard. Thank you very much. And he's going to win. He's going to win. So I'm debating whether I'm going to say the same thing. I'm debating whether I'm going to say I'm from, and I'm going to mention the name of the town. I'm from that town. And say, actually, I live there. I drove from there to get here tonight. But I understand that that's what you have to say in order to be elected or selected to the board. So I said it, but I'm not really from here. I'm from someplace else. I'm from Virginia. But I can't believe how shallow people are. I can't believe how little people read. I can't believe how little people understand. If I were to say, who knows what a chemtrail is at the 8,000 people assembly for the election or selection of the board of directors, the annual meeting, I'll bet you 1 in 100 might raise their hand and say, yeah, I know what that is. 1 in 100. Maybe. After all these years of chemtrails, I'm telling you, we have a country that is blessed with ignorance. There is no shortage of ignorance in our country. It's horrible. Words fail me. How do you describe the lack of curiosity, the lack of observation, the lack of common sense? How do you describe that? But that's where we are. George, your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I remember somebody came 2,000 years ago and he says, my kingdom is not of this earth. And I'll tell you a situation shortly, and I don't mean to take time away from anything you have planned, but I'll just say that I had a bad accident about 3 years ago where I rolled over a vehicle where there was a flooded area that was, I found out later, was known, and there was no way of telling that it was flooded because it had snowed over it, and I lost control of the vehicle. And then what I've been trying to do is get them to fix the situation, because like I tell them, I said, it may be a little too late for me, but I said, what about the next poor person who goes through there? Now, I've gone to the town where this state highway goes through, and I told them, I said, this is a danger to your residents. It's a danger to people coming from other communities because it's the one road that's access where they would go to like a shopping center in this rural area in northern New Hampshire. And I can't seem to get people to come on board, even in their own community. And I had a friend, someone who I helped out, who was actually there in official capacity with the fire department, because whenever there's a rollover, they figure some chemicals might have escaped the vehicle. Thankfully, it didn't. And they're there to clean up, or at least to make sure that, that there's to minimize the hazard. Well, I found out that he was directing traffic, and he was present about an hour after the accident, And he told me, I didn't know it was your vehicle. So not too long ago, I asked him, he's from that town. I said, listen, I said, could you come in as a witness for me that I'm going to go before a hearing? And he goes, oh, well, that would be hearsay. So he directed me to some house nearby where the guy's a complete stranger. And you know what I know now? The guy who I've known for probably the better part of 10 years, he won't help. But by the same token, and I was a friend of his, helped him out a number of times, him and his wife. I said, but the stranger will probably do more for me than the guy who's supposed to be my friend. Not just to say, hey, this is a known condition, it's a poor design, which he told me, and it floods often. But you see what I mean? In other words, when the chips are down,
I have another also similar but different spin on that, too, that's truthful. I was watching a road being put in next door to my driveway. My driveway's got a bunch of potholes in it, real bad, and they're putting a full paved in for people that live next door. And I mentioned to the guy, if you have any leftover gravel, could you fix this one pothole for me? And he said, well, get to it. And what happened is, when they left, my pothole was fixed, and my first instinct was to call and thank the Mosier Paving. And my girlfriend said, you better not do that. It'll get them in trouble.
Yeah.
I think she's right.
And what's wrong with that concept?
Oh, we had a similar experience.
I don't want to let that one go for a minute. What's wrong with thanking people for being neighborly, and you can't because it'll possibly get them in trouble with their job?
Let me put that in the first person, Rick and George. So my mother-in-law and father-in-law, white-haired, were in Virginia, and they had a flat tire. And a UPS truck, the brown UPS delivery truck, pulled over and changed their tire. And I found out, the description of this guy. So I called him up, and we lived a couple miles from the UPS terminal in the middle of nowhere in Virginia. And so I could figure out who it was because we got deliveries almost every day at our computer business. So I knew the drivers, all of them. I figured out from the description from my mother-in-law and father-in-law who it might be. I called him up to thank him, and I said, I want to call your boss and thank him. He said, don't do that. You get me fired.
That's right.
He said, we are not allowed to help people in distress, people who have problems. He said, but, I saw these people. I saw they were senior citizens. I saw they were on a lonely road. No one was, there to help them. No services for miles. No gas stations, nothing for miles. They were trapped. And this was, before most people had cell phones. And he said, hey, look, all I did was change the tire. I said, yeah, but you did it. And I thought your boss should know. He said, whatever you do, don't call.
It's terrible. And customer service, like we've talked about before, the whole thing is no longer about customer service. It's about damage control. I've got another problem with CenturyLink again. It's all crazy making.
I went to, I was invited to attend a board of directors recruitment meeting last Monday. And my son and I went. They sent out 350 postcards. I talked about this on the air. So we showed up. 4 people were interested in being a volunteer for the board. No compensation. And it's a working board to help the village. So, they asked a little bit about our background. And I said, yeah, I've been a volunteer fireman. I've driven a tractor trailer, a tanker. I've driven a hose truck. I know a little bit about mechanics and machinery and engines and a little bit about electricity. And I'm a farmer. I'm here 24 hours a day. So is our son. And we're interested. Well, they, that same guy that said, I'm from here. I was born here. I'm from here. By the way, he's the president of the board of directors at the electric cooperative now. He's risen to president of the board. So all you have to do is be from here. And I realize that's what this is all about. You have to be from here, even to help your own village. We'll be right back. Kyle, hold on. Class Doc Graham's with us. George in New Hampshire is on with us. Kyle is on hold. Kyle will be with you in just a few minutes. I just wanted to share one thing. This morning I was at the breakfast table with our family, And I was talking about our neighbor who has to think about whether he would support me being on the ballot. And I said to our boys were there, my wife was there, and I said, I have a friend in California. I haven't seen him in years. I'd love to, but I haven't. Haven't seen him in years. And I said, if he called me and he said, Vinny, I need your help. I really need your help. Can you come out here and help me? I said, I would do that. I would get in the truck and I would drive out there. And Mrs. Finelli said to the boys, yes, he would. And I support that. I would support him doing that to help his friend. Now, that's a 4,000-mile round trip. And I would do that, and I would make it happen, and I would make sure that I could cover the broadcast, either have some of our instructors fill in for me or run reruns. But if it were that important to my friend, who I haven't seen in years, I would do that. But what I'm saying is, if you end up with a handful of people you can call true friends at the end of your life, a handful, I think you're doing great. Because I don't have that many. I really don't. I mean, I have a lot of acquaintances. There are plenty of people who will let me down. And I said to the boys, I said at the meetup, if I were in a really bad situation, and I had some of these meetup people here with me, and I said this to the meetup group, if I had the meetup group with me, and I were covering, it were a bad situation, it looks like it's going to be a shootout, and I had 180 degrees to my front, and someone had my back, 180 degrees to my back, I'm certain that the person that had my back at the meetup would raise his or her hands and say, don't shoot, and I would get shot in the back. I said this to the meetup group, and that's what I meant it. Because this is the kind of proof I'm talking about. You're going to be let down, class. You're going to be let down by people you thought were your friends. They're not your friends. These are people who may smile at you and act like they're with you. At the same time, when, as George says, when it comes to a vote, well, and all George wanted was someone to help fix a problem in the village. That's all he wanted. He wasn't asking for someone to testify against a murder. He wasn't asking for that. He was just asking to have a problem in the road fixed so other people don't have the same crash that he had. George?
I'll say this. There was an actor I always liked, George Papad. Bit of a bad boy, but he made this statement when he got fired off the Dynasty. He was the original Blake Carrington. He got fired to replace him with John Forsythe. But he was persona non grata for 3 years, and he couldn't get anything. He couldn't get. He said he had 350 people on his Christmas card list, and he said that when he finally realized nobody got back to him, nobody gave him a handout when he was almost destitute. He almost basically was living out in the street. He says, I never realized how many people came to my house because the roast beef was good. That's what I'll leave you with.
George, very, very well put. Very well put. And I can tell you that as long as we were giving out free passes to the Get Prepared Expo, as long as I was willing to cover all the expenses for the meetups, there were people who were willing to take. But when it came time, when someone decided that maybe Norm Shealy was on the dark side, and erroneously decided that Norm Shealy was on the dark side, some of the meetup people joined with them and said, yeah, let's get rid of Norm Shealy. Unbelievable. These are the same people that would say, Dr. Shealy, I got this ache, this pain. Can you help? Can you check this? Can you check my blood pressure? What do I do? I'm not feeling well, Dr. Shealy. Can you help me? These are the same people. The same people who will take, and then throw them overboard. And I won't allow that. So what I did was I threw the meetup group overboard. They threw me overboard too. After 5 years of helping these people, giving, they threw me overboard. I want nothing to do with them. None of them. There you go. There you have it. I just said it. I just said it for the first time. I want nothing to do with them. George, anything else you've got for us?
I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks so much. Kyle, you're up next as soon as we come back. Please stand by, Kyle. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked. Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Class, I want to thank you. Record ratings today on TalkStream Live. Record ratings. the highest we've become. We're number 17 out of everybody who's broadcasting at this time. Thank you so much. Kyle in Montana, you're on with Dr. Richard Helen Miller. Welcome.
Good morning, Vince and Dr. Miller. you know, I've been thinking, I've thought a lot about this the type of people that we're dealing with now in our society, and it didn't used to be this way. I remember when I was a little kid, my dad talking about this guy has helped, and he had to go over and help this guy, and it was just part of life back then, that because everybody was just coming out of the depression. There was still that thought, that if you didn't help them, nobody was going to help them, kind of thought, But I think, but there was a few of them back then, even then, that my dad, I remember him talking about, saying, that guy wouldn't give you, his sweat if you were dying of thirst, and those type of people back then were kind of shunned. People just knew them. They didn't care for them. Even their kids, they wouldn't even, hardly have anything to do with their kids or nothing. It was just if somebody was like that. But I think over time, Vince, and I blame a lot of it on two things. One, the public school system and television more than anything else. But I think that they have narcissism can be programmed and sort of engineered to come to the forefront of a person's personality. And I think we're living in one of the most narcissistic societies that has ever existed. But, even back, I remember reading a quote one time from Louis L'Amour, and he said, "Many men look, but very few see."
All right.
Even it's been around a long time. It's just that now it's right there in your face everywhere you look, because everybody's almost that. Not everybody, but I'd say 97% probably of the people that are in this country are that narcissistic and self-centered that all they can really think about is what I've got to do to take care of myself, and that's just almost a panic fear mode that we have developed into as a society, I think.
No question in my mind, and what goes through my mind when I'm behind the wheel of our truck, and I'm talking about a pickup truck or my old car. Does everybody have to cut me off? I mean, everybody. I could be traveling down the road at or near the speed limit, either below or at the speed limit, and someone will look and they'll say, "You know what? I got time to cut that guy off. I think his brakes are good enough. He can slam on his brakes and not hit me." That's the kind of thing that happens. Our son was in a Dodge pickup truck, our farm truck. This thing is a Cummins turbo diesel from the factory exhaust system. But these are loud. These are loud diesel trucks. You can hear them. If you have one of these at a traffic light, it's the loudest vehicle. Not that we made it that way. Not that we modified it. It's just the way it came from the factory. And it sounds like a can of marbles, rattling. It's loud. And so what does some guy do? He drives his van right into the back of our son, who was at a traffic light. Stopped. No, that was, months ago. So our other son borrows our vehicle, our truck, and he comes back with it with a bumper smash, our 1999 Mercedes. What happened to that? He was at a traffic light. Stopped. A guy drove right into the back of him. Destroyed the bumper, destroyed the plastic bumper, destroyed the bumper, the metal bumper beneath the plastic bumper. I'm sure a couple $1,000s worth of damage has been done to this vehicle. The vehicle's only worth a couple thousand, but it worked great. So now we've got a vehicle that we're probably going to find out that it's totaled. And what'd the guy do? My son pulls over, pulls out of the intersection, and the guy takes off. That's the kind of stuff that's going on. So we're left with, if we report it to the insurance company, our insurance goes up. Plus, we get to pay the $500 deductible. And so, of course, I said to my son, "Can you remember what this guy's vehicle looks like? Because I'd like to go riding around looking for him." I'll tell you, it's horrible. And Not only did the guy not say, hey, I'm so sorry for damaging your vehicle. I'm so sorry for running into the back of you. I'm so sorry. What can I do to make this right? No. This guy takes off.
Oh, yeah. It's like I was saying, you know, everything is about me trying to maintain my life. Everything is the thought process. If you start there at that selfish core, you can really seriously do anything you want to and justify yourself.
It's true. All of what you guys are saying is true. And the narcissism stands. That's correct. However, and this is an important point, I have a friend who feels he's a light bearer. That means a light worker. He wants to work in the light, and he wants to help save the earth, and he wants to give himself to the earth to make things better for everyone. And he asked me, how can I do this? And my correct response is, in order to save the world, you have to first save yourself, because it's archetypal. And if you save yourself, that will show your child how you did it for yourself. And the difference between narcissism and saving oneself is a fine edge, like the concept of addiction and use as a tool. And psychedelics, for example, are going to be the next century's pharmaceuticals. That is written in stone. We now are starting to see small quantities of psychedelic mushrooms do this, does that kind of thing. But the difference between an alcoholic and someone that has a single glass of wine at dinner for antioxidants is the difference between addiction and a tool. And it's such a fine edge. It's like everything else in the universe. It has two edges to it. And so helping someone else is critically important, and is why in the magic orders of OTO it states, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. That means there are higher forms of love. And the most important one, if you work from the Greek, is thelema or talema, the love of will, your purpose here on earth. In other words, love is the law. You go out to help someone else unless it deters you from your own path. And the distinction of that between I'm in a hurry and don't have time for this, and I must reconsider why I'm doing what I'm doing to help this person, is the concept of the moment and where it becomes from profane into sacred. And it's a very fine edge between these two things, and most people don't even get what I'm trying to suggest. It's archetypal. That's why when somebody wins a Nobel Prize, no thought is original. It's like there are always, you share it with someone else in another part of the world that had the same idea you did, but is possibly going in a different direction than you. It is the length, girth, and width of what makes us man or human. And I am watching this, and I want to cry.
Kyle, you have a thought?
Well, Vince, I know that, you know, the farm that I sold out there where I used to live, I had to plow 2.5 miles of road to get to the main county road. And there was other people that lived on that road. And in 13 or 14, close to 14 years, all those people, the only people that ever helped me was 2 different people, and one helped 3 years out of the 13 or 14, almost 14, and one helped 2 years out of the almost 14 years of covering the cost of gas and breakdowns on the plow truck. And, you know, people, I just don't, and most of these people are out in the, I mean, they're way out there where I am, in the woods, you know. They're, and they have money way more than I had. And yet, it seems like, you know, it's just like, as long, like you were saying, it doesn't matter if you're going to do something to help somebody, just figure that you're doing it regardless. You know, you're just going to do it because that's the right thing to do. And you,
there it is, morals and ethics. Now you're getting down to the issue. There it is. And that's what we need to be doing now to everyone, especially our children. Teaching the distinction between ethics and morals.
You know, our family's out in...
with one exception, Vince, you've got to realize one thing, I think, more than anything else, and just like you've said, too, you can be this, and you can be this type of person that stands up and helps people when they need it and do the right thing, and you've got to learn to do the right thing just for doing the right thing's sake, and at the same time realize that those people are not going to do that for you.
Yeah, it's not about them. You're doing it for yourself. That is where the moral part comes in.
But my family still thinks I'm nuts.
Well, you are.
You know,
of course, they're right, of course.
You know, we're out there picking up trash. Kyle, you going to stay with us, or do you have more to say?
I got to let you go because I got to head down. But
Thanks so much, Kyle. Kyle Harris in Montana, USA Prepares Instructor. We'll be right back. Class, Doc Ram is with us, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, and if you'd like to go to his website, DOC as in Dr. RAM as in Richard Allen Miller, docram.com.
I have to say something about that, Vincent.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah. Sure.
I am right now being attacked by something. And when I say that, my website is, like, I have no internet right this moment. I'm surprised that I'm able to do the telephone. I have repair coming out. I have, in my WordPress, WooCommerce thing is sustaining an attack every 4 minutes since midnight last night. Do you know how many that is? Every 4 minutes, someone is trying to bust into my current website. Now, what that's done is it does not allow people to get into my website. They can't order books from me. Now, this has been going on for almost 2 weeks. I am dead stop I had to go back to work. I'm working in an old job that I used to do. Thanks for the employment. I don't have any money for another week, and so it's a mess. And I can't tell you why they're doing this to me, except that the kinds of messages I'm giving now are those of empowerment for people. And I want everybody to understand that there's something wrong with our sun right now at this moment, and that if you go out unprotected in the sun that's currently shining on my home, you're going to get hurt. And the eclipse that's coming up is so dangerous that if you attempt to look at the eclipse without proper sunglasses and lenses, you are going to hurt your eyes. It's going to happen. The sun, when I was a boy, used to be yellow. This sun is white. And while we have talked about the ants and the flies being the first to go, I just posted recently of an individual. My friends from JPL are puzzled. And when I say that, my friends are trying to understand what's going on, because the UVB that is actually hitting the Earth should have been absorbed by our ozone layer, and it's not. And nobody gets it because you can't see it. And I've got pictures of someone in Scotland that was out in the sun, normal overcast sun, and within 7 hours had second-degree burns. That's impossible, scary at 55 latitude north. Something's wrong here. And
Rick, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'm looking at that same article. I'm looking at this man from Scotland. I believe he's 20 years old, and he's a gardener, and he is, according to this article, he is now bedbound with second-degree burns. He was outside, as you said, for 7 hours without some kind of sun protection. So he had like on a sleeveless shirt working in the heat.
Scotland
and,
genetics are such that they're more sensitive to the sun. But this, as my friend put it from Scotland, is scary. He's retired. And we keep in touch because there are some astrophysical phenomena now going on that do not make sense. And I notice how NBC and Fox News and the normal channels of communication have not even discussed it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I got a call, maybe a month ago or so from Miles, senior instructor in Europe, and he said this was happening, and be really, really careful about the sun. He said you can't go out without protection because this will happen. He's right cancer so often.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what he said. And so here's an image of this guy. Literally, his neck is blistered, his shoulder is blistered. I'm talking about massive blisters from the
burn, yeah.
Yes, pretty darn serious. And all this guy did was go out and work for 7 hours. I can tell you that I've got what's called a farmer's tan. I'm pretty darn careful when I'm out in a tractor. I try to get in a cab tractor. I try to have a long sleeve shirt on, leather gloves inside a cab tractor, respirator, and an air filter in the tractor, and I'm still getting burned. That's what's happening to me. And so it's pretty darn serious, no question about it. We're keeping our equipment out of the sun so the tires don't get destroyed. Think about that, class. We'll be right back. Doc Rams with us. Rick, we were talking about the fire, the Grenfell fire in London. And the building, I'm looking at an article, it's called theatlantic.com. The building is owned by the local borough of Kensington and Chelsea. So this is a government building. And the government is looking into, how is it possible that this cladding was combustible? These buildings, and they're, from what I've read, there are 600 or so buildings that have the same or similar type of cladding or skin on them as the Grenfell Tower that burned and killed people. And this thing went up like a torch. It went up very, very quickly. Within 15 minutes, the building was, engulfed for a large extent in flames. Now, it's different. The building didn't disappear. It didn't go away like the World Trade Center buildings went away and turned to dust, if you will, according to what Judy Wood was talking about. They just went away. The building was still there because we found out, as we've been saying for a long time, that you can't just take jet fuel, pour it on a concrete and steel building, and have it go away, have it melt the steel. It doesn't happen. So this building, the Grenfell building in London, is still there. It's still vertical, but it's destroyed. It's destroyed because the fire from the outside, this cladding, was combustible. I mean, you can see it in the pictures. But there are more than just that one building. And from what I've just read, dailymail.co.uk, that hundreds of tower blocks in England could have the same combustible cladding as the Grenfell Tower. So here we have government checking on government to make sure that the buildings are safe, that the materials meet the fire code, everything's good, they can put a fire out if it happens, and guess what? They couldn't. They couldn't do it. And if you look at the videos, the pictures, the images, you'll see that the fire hoses couldn't reach the top floor. At least the ones I saw couldn't reach the top floor. So you've got to be not doing your homework if you are willing to be in a building like that. You really need to think about that. And that's why I'm not willing to live in a city. I'm not willing to put our families' lives in the hands of mercenaries. Mercenaries. Let me say it a different way. Mercenaries. Because if you stop paying these people, I'm talking about government employees, if you stop paying them, they're not coming to work. They're not like we are. They're not like those who are willing to help just because they think it's the right thing to do. These government employees won't show up. They're worried about their retirement. They're worried about what's in it for them. You want the proof of that? All you have to do is ask them to do something slightly outside the guidelines just because it's the right thing to do. They'll say, I can't do it. Can't help you. The rules won't let me. They're not willing to do that. They're not willing to help you. They're mercenaries.
This is also an argument for why governments managing people is not working.
Mm-hmm.
And why
I agree with that.
I prefer maritime law. Captain and commander of my own ship.
I prefer anarchy. And let me. I got to define it. Let me define what I mean by anarchy. Anarchy means without rule. Okay. I think I can handle our family, and I think we can do the right thing. And if no one's in charge, and I don't mean rape, pillage, murder, set fires. That's not what I mean by anarchy. And matriarchy is mom's in charge, right? Patriarchy means dad's in charge, and means without archy, without rule. I think we can govern ourselves. As a matter of fact, the little village that I live in has no mayor. It's unincorporated, and it's getting along okay. Now, they're not willing to support me as a candidate for the electric cooperative, and that's their right. But we don't have a police department. We don't have a garbage collection department. We don't have a town government. So we are in anarchy. We're without rule in our little town, and it's working just fine. And I think it's okay. I really think it's okay. We had a crime problem on our road, on our dirt road when we first moved in here. There were people that were hunting from the road. They were shooting their guns, killing deer on our farm. Well, we just decided that, we'll take care of that. We'll fix that ourselves. So we started interviewing almost everyone that drove down our road. Hey, how's it going? What are you doing? And they decided that we were equipped at least as well as they were. And they decided that maybe they should stop shooting from the road. Maybe they should stop poaching. Maybe they should stop the trespass. Maybe they should not climb over our fence and damage our fence and our farm and our animals. We took care of that ourselves, and it worked. It's still working. No one wants to come on our property anymore. They know. They've learned. They've heard. Now, our reputation is not quite accurate. They think we're nuts, but that's okay. It's working. I'm okay with that. And, I don't need to be entertained by the locals. I don't need anything in town. I can find everything that I need someplace else. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to vote with my wallet. I'm not going to participate in funding and subsidizing the local machine who is not interested in working with us. If they're not interested, we're not interested. They've taught us. We've learned very well. Hard lesson, but we've learned. Rick?
I don't... chaos rules.
Well, think about this. Who is it that says, you know what? Yeah, even though this insulative board that we're going to put on this building, even though it's it burns really, really well, it's okay. We'll just stick it on the side because heck, the building's not going to burn down. There's not going to be a problem. There's not going to be an electrical fire. We don't have to worry about it, and we've got fire trucks. So we've heard. Let's just glue this insulation material on the side of this building, and let's make it look nice. Who approves that? Does anybody ask any questions? Does anybody have any input? Does anybody have the guts, the intestinal fortitude to speak out? Or is it just a few of us? Is it just a few of us? I think we need to take our cue from those who are speaking out and say, you know what? I guess it's my job to speak out too. But I'll tell you what, I have found that, when I was at the expo and the police came in Lebanon, Missouri, and the police came and they had their guns, no one came to my rescue. No one. Just Vinny. Just me against the cops. Just me. Now, did everybody know? No, not everybody knew. But there were those standing around, and what'd they do? They watched. They were participants in watching. That's all they did. And so, how many of you are willing to stand up for honesty, integrity, the right thing? Because if you're not, no one will. If no one does it, no one does it. So then you get what you get. Because the big bad machine is going to run you over. And it's just like you have a few bad few bad children in class. And if no one stands up to them, they take over. They become the bullies and they push everybody around. And pretty soon there's more of them and more of them and more of them. Pretty soon they're the majority and there's no fixing it.
On that note, Grace is doing much better and I'm very proud of her.
Is she out of the hospital?
Yes. And
Great.
She's out of other institutions she needed to address.
Okay. Great. So is she moving to the Pacific Northwest?
I have no idea. Stay tuned. Same bat channel, same bat time. Okay. There's a lot of drama involved here, and it's all personal growth, and it's just in the same vein that we've been talking about. The distinction or difference between narcissism and helping yourself. The two are the one, it's from one side or the other. Are you in addictive behavior or are you using it as a tool? And it's a very fine level of edges. And that's refinement takes a lifetime. I'm in the middle of trying to get my own behind together. You know what I'm saying?
Rick, I'm watching what's happening all around, and we keep making the same stupid mistake. We seem, and I'm not talking about you, I'm not talking about me, I'm talking about collectively, society.
You mean marrying the same kind of woman, but that kind of thing?
Well, what I'm talking about is we know that the internet is not as stable as we'd like it to be. We know that if you want to get Vonage and have voice over IP or something like Vonage, they'll tell you, do not rely on this for emergencies. Do not rely on it. So we have businesses that are placing all of their eggs in the internet basket. They're saying we will put our data in the cloud. We will run our business through the internet. Everything's going to be just fine. I think it's crazy.
Well,
I'm not going to do it.
If the grid goes down, that is the end of that business.
Well, I walked out of a board of directors recruitment meeting. My son and I were in the running for 2 directors' positions at the volunteer fire department, and they wanted to put all of their records online through the internet. So you want to access QuickBooks, you do it through the internet. The data is not local, it's through the internet. And I said, if you want to do that and put membership records on the internet, banking records on the internet, I'm not interested in being a director here. Neither is my son. So we're going to make it easy for you. You can pick from the 2 remaining candidates. We're out of here. Thank you very much. And we left. Doc Rams with us, Dr. Richard Allen Miller. Rick, just a side journey. I'm really frustrated today. I'm watching what's happening in our country, and we've been sold out since the only president I can think of that really wanted to put us first, and other than Donald Trump, is JFK, John Fitzgerald Kennedy. And so I've been thinking. So I went to a search engine, and here's what I typed in: Here's the exact phraseology. Are any farm tractors made in USA? Okay, that's what I typed in. Here's the result. And it's tractorcompany.ca. And it says, there are a few assembly plants in the United States putting some tractors together, but pretty much this is a quote, but pretty much everything is actually made overseas, and none of the powertrains are built out here. Case, Ford, New Holland, Massey, McCormick, Kubota, and yup, you guessed it. These are quotes I'm reading. Yup, you guessed it. Even JD, meaning John Deere, are all made elsewhere. So I thought about that. I thought, okay, let's go to our barn. And what's in our barn? Well, we have 2 John Deere tractors, and they were bought them used 1991 vintage, made in Japan. Okay, both of them. We have a John Deere tractor, about 100 horsepower, made in Mannheim, Germany. Have a Case International tractor made in England. And we have a Ford tractor, 1974, 33 years ago. That's made in the United States. One tractor, a 1974. So, since 1974, we have been shipping our manufacturing elsewhere. And that's where the jobs have gone. And who has done that? Well, the government has made all this happen for us. They've destroyed our educational system. Our children can't read very well. They can't do arithmetic very well. They can't estimate. They can't think without a crutch called a smartphone. It's unbelievable. They're lazy, lethargic, don't start, can't finish, don't have the stick-to-itiveness that we had. We're in a lot of trouble. How are we going to fix that? Well, we can't. We can't fix it if nobody stands up. So it's incumbent upon everyone in this class. If you see something, say something. And I'm not talking about tell the government. I'm talking about if you don't like something, complain. If you don't like something, complain. I was at a restaurant several weeks ago. I don't like going to restaurants, but I happened to be at one. And I asked for the manager and said, you can fix this tip thing and you can change it to gift. And a few days ago, I was at the same restaurant. It was someone's birthday, and I was there. And I asked if the guy recognized me, assistant manager in training, recognized me. He said, yeah, you were over here a couple weeks ago. I said, yeah. Did you follow up on what I asked you to do about the tip versus gift? He said, no, I've been really busy. It's only been a couple of weeks, right? It's okay. He said, but he thought that the manager might have. And so I talked to his boss, the manager, and I said, so here's how it goes. The IRS will let you gift up to $14,000 tax-free, and you can do that for your employees. You can be a hero. And he looked at me, and I said, do you believe me? He said, no. I said, really, you don't believe me? He said, no, I don't believe you. The whole table is there looking at him, and he's telling the customer he doesn't believe me. I said, I'll tell you what. I understand. Why don't we do this? Why don't we have a little wager? I'm not a betting man, but let's have a wager. If I'm right, you're buying lunch. If you're right, I'll pay for lunch. He said, I'm not a betting man. It's not my money. I said, you can make it happen if you want to. He said, no. I said, I'll tell you what. Do you have a computer? He said, yeah, but it's not running really well. I said, well, let's find somebody with a phone. Found somebody with a smartphone, and they came up with a page within a minute, and it said, yeah, it said, Vinny's right. It's like, huh. What I'm saying, class, is you can say things, and you can speak up. And I told this manager, I said to him, I was pretty offensive. I said, if I liked you, and if I gave you a tip, if I liked him, if I liked you, and if I gave you a tip, you could apply that to up to the $14,000 and have it be tax-free. What a great day. What do you think? I ended up saying to my son, this guy has the personality of 80 grit sandpaper. That's my new expression. Rick, what do you think? Got a couple seconds left. I'm so frustrated. Rick, thanks for being with us. Class above all. Honesty.
Vincent, you're supposed to take the knife lengthwise down your arm, not across.
Rick, thanks so much for being with us. Thanks so much for being with us.